Like, do you know what? I just want to do nothing, right? Our mother's dream is to do nothing, and it's not because we don't enjoy other people's company, but we don't often get to enjoy our own with silence, with no to-do lists, with no backed up everything that's been lumped on us and taking on more. Hello and welcome to another vlog on YouTube and podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by the Fit Minds podcast. Coach Mariah Jean here. Another episode about motherhood. Sorry if you listen to my podcast and you're not a mum, but this is the direction I'm taking my business in. So it doesn't apply to you, just don't listen, or you can send it to a mum that you think needs it the most. So this podcast is about the invisible mental load. Certainly I think more people are talking about it now than ever, but we're probably not talking about it enough in a sense of how much it's burdening our minds on a daily basis as mothers. So I'm going to try and share some insight into my own mental load, and of course, without adding to yours. I suppose in a somewhat of an attempt to have some relatability and understanding and empathy of what many mothers, maybe including yourself, go through on a daily basis internally. And really it is that internal struggle, the mental load. So what is the mental load? And for those of you who don't, have kids, or it might be that you know mothers and you're thinking to yourself, they're always busy, they're always stressed, they're in a rush, they're struggling to make time for themselves, for other people. They seem checked out, they seem anxious, nervous, all of the above. I think certainly the hardest parts of carrying the mental load is the fact that nobody can see it. It's not like you can wear a sign across your head saying, I'm currently thinking about the 50 things that I have to do today, including the load of washing that needs to be put on, or the dog needing to be fed, or the plants needing to be watered, the life admin and the tasks that rack up, or the bill that needs to be paid, or the fact that I've got an appointment at 10 o'clock for my daughter with her GP, or the fact that you've got to get an assessment in for uni. Not that I'm studying anymore, but that's just another added layer for those who are. Or that you have a deadline to meet for a presentation for work, or that you've got 50 emails to reply to, or even so, someone from Facebook Marketplace is picking up something that you're selling for the family, or you've got a birthday party coming up that you need to plan, you've got to book in the cake. And so you imagine that all of these tasks and jobs have their own subsets, they have their own subcategories as well. I'm not saying that men don't carry a mental load, or that fathers don't carry one, but I do think that by default mothers end up with most of it, unless it's passed on. And even then, when it is passed on, we have trust issues with passing on those tasks, because oftentimes there's a certain way that we do them, or it might be that we're worried they're going to be forgotten. And I do think that I see a lot of mothers who struggle to not just delegate, I wouldn't say delegate, but share some of that load, due to the idea that maybe in the past that may not have gone as well. Maybe they do have trust issues, or maybe that they just find that it's easier if they do it while it's fresh in their mind. Or maybe they are the only person in the household that thinks about these fine details. And really, in the big picture, they're not fine details, are they? They are the cogs that turn the wheel. They are the responsibilities that without performing them, life would eventually turn to shit. If you don't feed the dog dies. That's the reality of the situation. If you don't water the plants, they die. If you don't change the baby's nappy, well, we know the consequences of that. It's a pretty nasty nappy rash. I think certainly that men are more adept at probably attending to things that are priority, the most important tasks on the list, and leaving the ones that aren't. And as mothers, we really struggle with letting them all go, letting any of them go. I would imagine it's kind of like having a basket and we've got all these precious jewels and we're trying to keep them all in the basket, but we realize that maybe we don't need them all in there, or that, sometimes letting go of them, we wonder whether or not something bad's going to come of that. So when really in retrospect, some jewels are just rocks or stones and they don't really need to be collected or paid attention to or given any sort of time, at least not now. So I think that for mothers, the main reason why struggling to prioritize becomes a problem is because of the urgency placed on us at any given point in time where we are interrupted or distracted. And so it then deviates us from whatever we were doing previously. And so then we get really good at, or maybe even just used to, multitasking. We get used to adding something else on our plate. We get used to saying yes all the time, making family plans, being the person that the doctor calls or the daycare calls or whatever it might be, being the point of contact for everything. And being the rock for everybody as well, being the place that our husband goes for, solace and peace, and being the place that our child comes to for comfort. And if you really think about it, it's kind of like wearing all of the hats, isn't it? We're a chef, we're a taxi, we're a doctor in some aspects, definitely not all of them, but we get to a point where we understand certain different types of antibiotics off by heart. And it's all this stuff that we just carry with us like this invisible load. I really believe that part of why mothers end up neglecting themselves, or certainly the really crucial parts of their self-care, such as their exercise, like we're talking, these are basic needs. These are not luxuries. The whole concept that exercise and movement is a luxury is false. It makes no sense. How is that a luxury? How is our Netflix subscription not a luxury in comparison? But I really believe the reason why mothers get to the point where they neglect those needs is because they do not see themselves as important enough to place somewhere in that pile of things to do, right? That list. It's kind of like if you could mentally imagine what the to-do list looks like. It's got everybody else on it. And then your needs as a mother are kind of over here. They're not even on the list. It's just like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. I'll slot it in later. And we look at working our way down the list and getting to everybody else's needs. And I'll just do that for my kids first, or I'll just do this for my husband first, or I'll just do this first, or I'll just get that done. I'll go attend to that first. And then it's like every time we get the opportunity to put something in for ourselves, something else pops up and distracts us again. It's like the second we have a moment to ourselves, oh no, by the way, this is happening. You've got to attend to it. You've got to do something about it. Of course, when I want to go for a walk, or when I want to go to the gym, or when I want to do some meal prep, this happens. And I believe that at that point, it all gets too much. It all boils over. And so what ends up happening is that within our sphere of what's, doable and what we can handle mentally and physically, and it's quite a lot. You go through childbirth, of course, and pregnancy. We are resilient human beings, have a high pain threshold, we have a high tolerance, But let's say this is our sphere of what's manageable. Oftentimes, what we'll throw out of that sphere is us, is our own needs, our own goals, dreams, hopes, and desires, because we see, exercise and losing body fat and probably being at a healthier body fat range. I probably don't need to do that right now, and I can put everything else first and put everybody else's needs first because that's more important. That's a higher priority. So I think mothers, number one, don't see themselves as important enough. And that is that maternal instinct and drive to put others first. And it kicks in quite strongly, even prior to pregnancy and prior to having children. But it amplifies after you have a child. It's like the intense guilt that you feel, and we talked about mum guilt before, for doing anything other than what's mentally weighing us down on that to-do list, that big to-do list, feels like a luxury. It's not a necessity. It's something that we do when we have spare time. And the reality is we cannot have the spare time if we do not create it. Don't jump down my throat for this. That doesn't mean creating spare time in times where you can't do that. For example, if you need to put the baby down for a sleep, you need to do that. If you need to take the kids to their sports, someone has to do that, whatever it might look like. But I'm talking about the moments in between, and not even just that, but the moments where we are occupied, where we think or we assume that it's not possible to do what's required to achieve XYZ goal or optimize our health. The other part of it is that we don't, like a lot of these women who come to me, they don't even know how. They don't know where to start. They're like, I don't know what's healthy. I don't know what's not healthy. I don't know what calories and macros I need to be on. Rightfully so. You're not a nutritionist. That's not your role. And the issue is that mothers are not only trying to be taxi drivers, medical professionals, psychologists, manage their own job, their own career, holding that down as well, wearing all of these hats. But then they're also trying to be their own nutritionist. They're trying to manage their own meals and food. They're trying to lose weight. They're trying to eat healthily. They're trying to, somehow figure out what type of exercise is suitable for what they're wanting to achieve. And they start guessing. Because they're like, you know what? I've managed to be able to do all these other things here, by winging it. Maybe I can just wing it at my own stuff too. And I see so many mothers who go through months, years even, of the same shit, doing the same shit, expecting different results. And then that's when they start getting desperate because they've been doing this for months or years and seeing no results and going, oh shit, nothing's changing. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Or they've got no one to talk to. They've got no one to bounce off of. They've got no one to reassure them in moments where, no, that's what this is, or this is what we need to do in this circumstance. Because when it comes down to it, if you want to really do something well, you see an expert about it. So when we have all this mental load and one of our kids is sick and we think, shit, they might have a bacterial infection, we don't just go and find antibiotics and just guess which ones to put them on, do we? We know they probably need antibiotics. We go to a doctor, we go to a pharmacist, whatever it might be, a hospital, and then they decide from there, right? Everything else in our lives that we need to do accurately and well to get a good outcome, or at least a more effective outcome where you're not wasting your own time for years on end, frustrated, we go to a professional. If, for example, I don't know, our kid's got a speech impediment, we go to a speech pathologist. Do we try and handle that speech impediment on our own? Maybe for the first few weeks when we figure out it's there, but no, after that point we go to a professional. And so what's happening is mothers are going, well, I'll cut corners, right? I'm on a budget, all the money goes towards the kids. So what I'll do is I'll cut corners with myself. I will, have a really low budget to the point where I can't really afford to get the help that I need because I'm giving all of the help to everybody else and we're assigning all the finances to everybody else. And I will do, the way I would describe it is that women try and do their nutrition and exercise like home brand. Do you know what I mean? They just try and do it as cheap as possible. I need it as cheap as possible. I need to make sure it doesn't take up too much time. The other. See how just by doing that alone, what you're doing is you're saying to yourself, I don't matter to be able to put in the effort or the finances to something that can actually give me a great outcome. And the issue with then, being cheap, it might be, for example, they join an 8-week challenge with a PT that doesn't have any nutrition qualifications, but it's really cheap because they don't have any nutrition qualifications. And they put everyone on the same meal plan, and some people lose weight and some people don't. And it's like, they chose that cheap option because it was just the cheapest option that there was. And it was the easiest thing to do. And yet they're still left with, even if it was the cheapest, wasting their money and then going, okay, well, I tried to delegate some of this mental load to somebody else. I didn't trust them, or I don't trust them now because I didn't get the result that I wanted. And so this is perpetuating this same cycle that we have for ourselves, which is I'll take on all the responsibilities. When I feel like the responsibilities, I'm probably not doing them to the point or extent where I want to be doing them, especially when it comes to myself. I've hired help. I'll delegate. Oh no, the help wasn't very good. The delegation didn't work very well. Shit. Now I'm never going to delegate again. So it's the same with our kids' health. We go to a doctor that fucks up, makes a mistake. We change doctors. Or we go, now I'm not very trusting of the medical system. And see how we start to then we do these DIYs and we go back into our shell. So I really believe that the mental load is real, right? In the time I've been filming this podcast, I've already thought to myself, my wonder whether I'm going to have time to pick up Lila this afternoon instead of Alex. I wonder what we're having for dinner tonight. It's book week this week. I've got to remember to lay out her outfit for Thursday. Like, this is what happens. And then thoughts about, oh, that's right, I've got to get my steps in this afternoon. And while I'm doing my steps, I'll also do this thing. You know, oh, that's right, I could do the grocery shop while I'm doing my steps. That's a great idea. Oh, and while I'm in the grocery shop, I wonder what snacks I'm going to have this week. I'll have to check the cupboard and see how like it just eventually becomes this cascade effect of all of the shit that you have to think of and do. And you throw multiple children in the mix of things, or you throw where you've got a situation where you've got a child with a disability, or the list goes on. So mental load. Mental load is invisible, it is heavy. And I think it's incredibly important to understand that if you don't have kids and you're talking to someone who is a mum, that you don't know what's going on in her mind at that moment. If you might ask something of her, I'm not saying don't ask things of mothers, but just understand if she doesn't reply to you, or if she doesn't want to see you, or if she cancels plans, or if she says, hey, I'm really not coping at the moment, I'm overwhelmed, please believe her. And please know that it has nothing to do with you. Something I didn't understand before having Lila, I did understand. I would pursue or talk to women who were clients, right? Becoming potential clients. And I'd be like, oh, I don't know why she hasn't replied. I don't know, like what? I've given her this information. I've been very helpful and like I've just been left on red. But then eventually it's funny, they would message me, say 2 weeks later, sorry, we all got sick and blah, blah. And it's like now, it's such a normal thing for me now because I'm like, yeah, same. That happened to me too. And I'm like, it's not that I wasn't forgiving of it before. It's that I internalized what the mother was doing. And I thought it was me, that I was the problem. And now I realize that no, there is so much when you have a family, when you're caring for small human beings, that you don't realize comes into play until you're in the thick of it, in the middle of it, until you become a mother, until you become a dad, but definitely as a mother. And it's certainly, I think in the early days, it's all very consuming when they're a newborn because it's like every moment of your day is completely dedicated to this small human, right? And as they become more independent, they see things that they enjoy and they like doing, and it buys back some time. And obviously they sleep a lot when they're newborns, but it's in small stints. So it's like all of the tasks that you can get done they could take you 15 minutes or 10 minutes, could take you an hour. You don't know because you don't know what time you've got to work with. So mental load is really taxing. It's an incredibly taxing thing. And there's no wonder that we wake up every morning with less mental load. I don't know whether any other mums are like this, but I'm like a person who has to finish everything. It's quite toxic that I've set out for myself in the day. So if I'm like, right, I want to do this and this today. And I get really disappointed with myself if I haven't finished it and I have to pass the task on to the next day. I have lists of everything in my phone. Lists of groceries, lists of, activity ideas for Lila and for the family. I've got lists of holiday destinations that we haven't gone on, that I really want to go on, but haven't made the time to go. Life goals. And then I've got to-do lists and admin lists and all sorts of crazy stuff. And it's kind of like, for me, that was the only way to get the mental load out, was to put it on paper. And the meaningless tasks, they just get done. But the only way that I could possibly allow for that mental load to feel less is to make lists and to go, that's probably more important than that. And then factoring myself in. So my gym goes on every, day that I've got, Monday through to Sunday. I only train 3 days a week, but it might be that gym, goes on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Or for example, yesterday, I was just exhausted after we had a weekend away. So I was like, you know what? Monday's off. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And I just plug it in to my days because I know that if I don't do that, I just don't end up going. And I think that this is the thing, right? We think as mums, it's actually crazy. We're so in our own bubble because we can't afford not to be in our bubble. We're in our own bubble and then we're like, I'm so busy and I have this, and all these things. And then we look at taking shortcuts for ourselves, but like we don't look at the easy option for our kids, if that makes sense. So like the amount of mums I'm like, I know that are like, oh, I can't do meal prep on weekends or whatever. I can't do anything remotely with meals because I've got to hand make biscuits for my kids, or I've got to make every meal from scratch every night. You really don't. You don't have to do that. No one said you had to do that. That doesn't make you a better mother. Your kids don't even really prefer it. You don't have to do that. And we've created these ideas in our minds of what we think we have to do as mothers because of some sort of invisible standard that we hold ourselves as well to. Something that like Alex and I will do not often, we have like frozen little meals in the freezer. I'm not sponsored by them. It's just a random brand. They're pretty good. They've got like heaps of veggies in them as well, but we've got these frozen little meals. Someone put them on to us at the gym. And we were like, oh, that's a great option. Like, I didn't even think of that. We had her on purees and we just didn't know they existed. This is when we were kind of changing over to more solid meals. And we will, on weekends, we used to put aside all this time to like make homemade pizza. Don't get me wrong, we'll do that at night. But during the day when we're trying to get things done and get her down for a nap and when she wakes up and whatever, kind of, there's just stuff going on during the day. And so we're like, the perfect spot to put a little meal. So she has a little meal for lunch on Saturdays and Sundays, and it just, or unless we're out, if we're out, she'll eat out with us. But it's like, that then means that we're not spending, unless we want to, in the rainy day, we do some baking, but we're not spending all this ridiculous amount of time in the kitchen all the time. And it's so interesting. I'll watch mothers, school projects come around and they'll be like, oh, we're gonna do the school project. I'm up all night doing it, and they'll put all of this effort into the school project, all this effort, and they'll just forget about themselves. And I'm here to tell you, from one mother to another, it doesn't matter, right? You're being present for your kids as it is. If it means that book week this week for Lila, an outfit for her, and it's like, oh, you might feel obliged to go and get some fancy new outfit from whatever. And we're like, oh, we've got a tutu in the closet and we've got some fairy wings. We haven't even used them. Instead of saving them for a birthday party, let's just have her wear them to book week. Saves us time. It already exists. She's going to look really cute in it. Awesome. Great solution. Not a better mum if I go and get a new outfit. Doesn't change anything. So these invisible standards we set for ourselves. And this is what I do. Like, I actually work with mums. I don't tell them how to parent, but it's more like, I had a mum sign up with me maybe a week ago. I can't remember when it was, but yeah, whether it was a few days ago or a week ago, or 2 weeks ago. Days blend into each other. And she was like, I've got all these sporting commitments. If you listen to this for that client, you won't know who she is, but I've got all these sporting commitments for the kids, and I'm taking them to soccer and this and this and this. And she laid out her whole schedule. And I was like, that's a lot. And the amount of mums that come to me like, this is my schedule, it's really crazy, I work a lot and I have hardly any time. And I'm so calm in my responses because I'm like, I get it. That is a lot. That's heavy. There's a lot going on there. Yes, it is. Well, I can understand why you're stressed, right? And so instead of then going, well, you need to do this and stop doing that and do that, and then you need to do more and sleep less and be up late night doing your gym session. No, I'm like, okay, well, your life's pretty hectic. So maybe we look at just 3 gym sessions a week, right? And we adjust your meal plan and your calories to match that. That's possible. Okay, what about your steps, your walking? Do you sit down all day? Like, can we have you be more active? And it's like, the one thing I found with this mama is that she was going to a lot of these sporting events and just sitting down for the whole thing. Soccer was 2 hours or whatever it was, I don't know, 1.5 hours. And I said, that's perfect walking opportunity. I said, you don't even need to be walking the whole time. It's like, you literally could do a walk at the start of soccer or at the end or in the middle, do laps around the oval, get your steps in while you're there. Or if obviously the kids are old enough and they're in a position where they're in good care of the teacher or whatever, and there's that trust there, I don't know. Not telling you how to parent, just, I don't know. You might go to the gym that's close by, use the treadmill and come back. Or if it's raining, they're not training. But there's ways that I work with women where I get them outside of their own head, where I don't add to the mental load. That is not our job as coaches. We're not here to add to your mental load. We're actually here to take from it. We're here to take off your shoulders, what do I eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and what are the kids eating? We are here to say, hey, by the way, as nutritionists, this option is pretty good for kids too, actually. It's not that bad. Maybe consider it. Not going to do kids nutrition anytime soon, but don't stress about that one. That's not too bad. You don't have to, not everything has to be organic. Because as nutritionists, we know that that's truth. It doesn't have to be organic. And giving them pathways out of what can often be, not that our circumstances are self-fabricated, but self-fabricated rules and ideations. Yeah, like ideas around the way we should behave, act, do things. And that we can just have the leftovers, that we can just have the scraps, that we can just have of the financial budget, we can just have this little sliver. Oh, well, I can't justify spending, like my app, it's like $31 a week. It's launching in a week and a half, and it's going to be that cheap. And it's like, if I get a single person come to me saying I can't afford $31, I will tell them that they are a liar. They're a liar. Unless you're on the dole, or like a disability pension, maybe, but even then, they allow for certain things with disability pensions. But unless you're on the dole and you're looking for work, you can afford $31 a week. What would have to happen in the rest of your life is that there would be something worth $31 that you go, I don't need this. And you don't really realize what that is. It could be the takeaway coffees. It could be the 7-Eleven, soft drink that you're picking up every day. It could be something that is just, holy shit, didn't realize I was doing that. It could be the subscription that you don't even use anymore for whatever it might be, Stan or Netflix, or it could be the fact that Spotify and, your husband and your Spotify are separate and you could join them together and save money. Like Alex and I, right, we do well for ourselves, as well as you probably could imagine. And it's like, we still, before we bought our house, looked at our budget and went, don't use that anymore. We don't use that. Alex had a lot more than I did. We bunched those together. We'll make this cheaper by doing this. We'll research this insurance company and compare it to that one. And we basically just pulled everything in and we saved a few $100s a week. And it's like, you can do that with a small budget. You absolutely can. Cutting back on alcohol, the bottles of wine. You can go without those things. It's just that you're so habitually used to push yourself as hard as possible, grind yourself into the ground, add more onto your plate, and that you're like, this is my life now. You convince yourself that this is my life. This is it. This can't change. That's where you go wrong. The idea you think you can't afford, you can. And that is why I literally came up with this, because I was like, nobody can turn around to me and say that $31 is too expensive. That's ridiculous. Do you go out for a meal with your family every weekend, a week? Every couple of days? Are you getting takeout? Are you getting Uber Eats? Are you getting KFC? Oh, cool. Awesome. That's $31 right there, that you could be making your own food at home. And in a way that's so easy and so doable, and you get to your goals and you get to what you want to do, and we literally tell you exactly what to do. Like, I think that mums, this is going to be like, probably going to upset some few people. The excuses that we make are not, look, I can't because of my kids. The excuses we make is I can't afford it, or I don't deserve it internally. I can't afford it and I don't deserve it. Because that's what that actually means. When someone says, I can't afford $31 a week, I don't deserve it. Everything else is more important than me. And that is no one's task, like to take over. That is no one's job except yours to start saying, I do deserve it. I do deserve it. Because you know what? With all of the stress, the shit that I'm taking on, all of the mental load, keeping a checklist of what's missing from the fridge, what needs to be thrown out, throwing the things out from the fridge, wiping up the muddy footprints 50,000 times a day, right? Wiping down the high chair 50,000 times a day. Figuring out when the dog needs to get their claws clipped, whether the dog needs a bath, figuring out whether or not the showers are due for bleaching. This is all the shit that goes around in my head. When your mobile phone's due for being updated, when all the bills are due, keeping them in the calendar, the list goes on. And just know it. You just know that. That is your mental load. You carry that. But I think that if we get outside of this idea that is all we're destined for, and that we actually have an option to, just like with other things, when we had a little one, if you had some support, the support with your newborn, right, is just as crucial to have with your own health and wellness. When you're a mum, because you have all these other things on your plate now, the absolute very first thing you should be doing is getting support. with regards to your nutrition and your exercise, like you do when you go to the doctor and you're not feeling well, like you do when you go to a physio when you've got an injury, like you do when you go to the dentist when you've got a freaking cavity, right? The first thing you should do is be responsive to this idea that you are unhappy with how you feel, with what you see in the mirror, with like physically your energy levels, your digestion, your skin, you're irritable, you're tired, you're cranky, you can't concentrate, right? You feel like crap. I went away for the weekend and I was eating meals that weren't my usual meals and it was what we could find. And I felt horrible, even though there were better choices. I was like, ugh, is this what people feel like all the time? I just felt sluggish. I was getting headaches. My digestion was off. I felt queasy, sick, like reflux. It was horrible. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that it's okay to have mental load. It's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to feel like, oh my God, I can't take on another thing. But trust me when I say, when you sign on for coaching or whether you sign on for the app or whatever it is, when you commit yourself to better nutrition and exercise standards, you're not taking on more. You're actually delegating, giving someone else the task to tell you, eat this amount at this time. You're actually passing off that mental load, right? And when you start to see it as one of the most valuable things that you'll ever do for yourself and for your family, because when you start showing up as the happy mum, and you can see it, you see me posting about it all the time, the amount of messages I get from mums and all sorts of clients going, holy shit, this is life-changing. I wish I did this sooner. I'm so much happier. Because you know what? They've realized that it's not more mental load, it's less. I have taken so many things off their plate and carried that for them so that then they can think about the stuff that gives them joy, so that then they can come back after exercising and go, oh my God, because you gave me back all this time where I didn't have to worry about XYZ because you were designing this for me, I now have the time to go and do these things. You've given me the solutions. You've actually worked this out for me. You have made this doable, this feasible. I got out of my own head. And I can't believe I'm making this happen. So to tie it back to the mental load, it is heavy, it is hard, it is overwhelming, overstimulating, it's ridden with anxiety, and we wear it so well. Others just keep pushing on. We find a way to just persevere. And as I said to Alex the other day, it was so funny. He was like, oh, I'm sure you can't wait to have some girl time or do this or do that. And I was like, do you know what? I just want to do nothing, right? A mother's dream is to do nothing. And it's not because we don't enjoy other people's company, but we don't often get to enjoy our own with silence, with no to-do lists, with no backed up everything that's been lumped on us and taking on more. A coach's job, my job, is to take it off your plate, to take more off your shoulders, to lighten the load, to help you feel relief, a sense of relief. And that is the initial reaction, even before starting coaching, the clients feel with me, relief. Like for the first time in years, someone sees them, and for the first time in years, someone actually cares about them, which, to be honest, would bring a lot of people to tears, would make people emotional, because we take care of everybody else. And who's looking after us? So anyway, that is it for me. The invisible mental load, I see it. It's not invisible to me. It's not invisible to other mothers. There's amazing people. There's amazing humans in this world. There'll be a handful of them in your life that give you the power to change your own life for the better. And I would hope that I'm one of them. And Coach Chloe is as well. We're here in your corner. This is what we do every single day. And we love it. We love it. We love getting these messages. I've had 3 of them today already. These epiphanies, which make us realize that this is all worth it. So if you're currently struggling with mental load, message me, give it to me, give me some of it. I will help you. And you have to want to help yourself though. The intent has to be there. You have to want to get out of that cycle. Who doesn't want to get out of the cycle of having everything on their shoulders all at once? Anyway, that is it from me. Actually, before I go, I want to finish up with the idea that I've taken on. I've had coaches myself. I have had multiple business coaches over the last few years. And one of the most crucial things I learned from my first business coach was that I had to start delegating more. I hired 2 staff members I started getting, weirdly enough, when I was pregnant, we had a cleaner. Literally, because I knew that I was saying to myself, we can't afford it, we shouldn't spend the money on it. And we could, we found a way. We just didn't spend money on other things for a little while, and we had a cleaner. And it was one of the best things possible through pregnancy because it took off that mental load of cleaning. Now, I'm not saying everyone can afford a cleaner, but what I am saying is, like, how do we justify spending $150 on Temu on shit at Kmart or on Temu, but we can't spend $150 on getting a cleaner in for a couple of hours because that's the cost. To then not have to clean our house for 2 weeks. Well, the deep parts of our house, the dishes and the washing still need to be done, but that's where I'm going to finish the podcast, is this concept and this idea. And that's the interesting thing. It gave me back time to spend more time in my business, which then makes money. So it was like the way it was painted towards, to me, was stop boxing yourself in, thinking that when you go and invest in something, then you can't afford it because of X, Y, Z. You can't afford not to do this. This is your mental and physical health at stake here, and it's impacting every single facet of your life. Imagine how different your life would be if you spent $31, right? It's going to be $31 only for a week, and then it goes up to $39, big whoop. If you spent it on that instead of an Uber Eats, instead of, the quickest thing you could find in the food court, right? That one meal that you eat in a week that you probably didn't want to eat anyway, and you put it towards changing your life forever for the better. Imagine how different every day would be, every hour would feel. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. Message me, reach out, Instagram, Facebook. I think we're on TikTok as well. I don't often use TikTok. Our inquiry form, often post it on my stories, or mariahjanefit.com. Jump on there. There's our coaching options on there. There's lots of different ways to get in touch. Our email and mobile numbers is on my profile, I believe, on my Instagram profile. Anyway, I hope you have an amazing day wherever you are in the world. Looking forward to doing a podcast for you soon.